Been a while since I logged on. Last time I played was the last video. So I think we're planting still. Oh yeah, planting soybeans. We were should have saved the course, I don't really remember. Oh well. So we'll go ahead and unfold our planter. Should be close. Alright, sweet. So, I have a little bit of money. I don't really have enough to buy any more fields unless we were to take out a loan for like field 4 and expand it a little bit. Just watch our awesome planter. That's not what I wanted. I wanted... something like this. There we go. Now we should be good. Went and sprayed Our first season we chisel plowed this entire field, and this season we went ahead and we just cultivated in the residue. We put down an application of NPK prior to cultivating. We put down some herbicides, so next time soil mod updates, we should be right around where we want to be for nutrients. And our moisture is a little bit low, but that will update soon enough. I'm not sure if it's going to count the 2 applications of spraying. We put down liquid NPK and liquid herbicide, so I'm not really sure if it will take into consideration that as a double moisture application or not, meaning it will bump it up 28% instead of 14%. So that remains to be seen. Other than this, we just have our other smaller field to plant. Finished chisel plowing that. First season that field was chisel plowed, and then we followed up with our cultivator and crumbler to add that moisture back. But we sprayed NPK before we chisel plowed, just to get the most benefit out of plowing and most bang for our buck in the nutrients. So hopefully that field produces. Meanwhile, we're just kind of sitting, riding along with our course plate driver as he does his final 2 perimeter passes. So we're planting beans in this field again, just because I'd like to have this. You know, if we were to plant this as corn, it would be a lot of bushels we'd be pulling out, a lot of liters of corn we'd pull out of this field, and it's just a pain to sell it in an hour. You know, try to get a good price on our grain, where, you know, if we plant more land in a lower yielding crop but has a higher price, it's easier to sell, and then we could get the same, you know, try to balance our liters between the 2 crops. So just to make my life a little bit easier when selling and price fixing. Not really price fixing, it's just supply demand. What you really hope for is you hope for a great demand for one of your crops, and you unload a lot of that to put a lot of the you know, commodity in the market, which drives up all other prices. You know, it plummets that one crop, but it elevates everything else, and then you hope for another great demand for the other, your second crop, and you just do it again. So it's getting towards the evening now on this save game. Trying to wrap up our planning. It won't take very long to do the other field, but these perimeter passes are they take quite a while. It's a little bit quieter in the cab than if I were to be outside the cab. It's nice to have the computer drive for me, so I could just kind of like sit back and enjoy the view. Costs a little bit of money, but that's okay. So these DB planners, the wing flex is spec'd at 15 degrees, and that's what I have it in the XML on this, is allow for 15 degree wing flex. I'm thinking about putting the tracks, the Terra tracks. I had Terra tracks initially on the DB120, but just never got around to scripting those in. I just slapped in wheels and just never took the time to go back and add the tracks. But I think I might make another version with a different landing gear. To lowering frame to allow for the tracks on both this and the DB120. So just using the old Terra track script, pretty easily to modify for 15. Little view in the front here. Over on this east side of this field, it's going to be a little bit more elevated in the nutrients, because when we first started farming this piece of land, I sprayed and plowed a little bit, and then the terrain file was deleted in the save game, so just because I was making some updates and changes, so I basically plowed over an area twice, so it just has a little bit more increase in nutrients from plowing it twice instead of once. So this guy's pretty much just this is already planted, so I don't need to sit here and watch him go plant already planted ground. So we'll just buzz over here and pick up where he didn't plant. Go back in where it's nice and quiet. 8.8 miles an hour. This planter really isn't much for this size of a tractor. Pretty much just playing with it. Slowly working on a 9620 RX. Have the rear end pretty much all finished with the new fuel tank. Modified the exhaust, air intake, modified the front fenders, built tracks, and just have to finish up the main sprocket. It's pretty complex, to be honest. It's not a quick little build. So of that whole tracked unit, that whole H-track design, that main sprocket is definitely the most complex part of it. So here you can just see the rowing units, just follow the terrain. It's pretty rough over here. Have a nice wing flex across the machine, and individual row unit flex. So works pretty good. So same with this is already planted, so So there was a new machinery rental mod released, and I tried it, and the author pretty much encrypted all of the XMLs and LUA files, so you can't go ahead and adjust the rental price. And he made a plugin that allows the computer, the game, to read the encryption. So basically you really can't do anything to edit it. At least I can't. So I just went back and reverted back to the old machinery rental that had a more reasonable. I have it so this tractor cost me like $5,000 or something to rent it for the day, versus the same tractor with that new mod was like $28,000 to rent it for the day. So, which is a little bit insane. So, especially when you're working with real prices and real yields, you just can't afford to use those mods and values that are spec'd for like the standard in-game map where you have 750 bushel corn, so, and 350 bushel wheat with a 1-day growth period. So, although I liked a lot of the new features, it allowed you to just use the standard in-game store menu, and it allowed you to pick different hours. You had a selection of renting it for days or hours, and renting it for days was obviously cheaper overall, and 1 day was cheaper than renting for 24 hours kind of thing. So a lot of cool features, but it was just too expensive for me to consider really using it. This one has some issues. Basically you need to bring up the HUD using like the Control P, and then you have to reset everything you rent, otherwise it conflicts with the drive control. But whatever, I can live with it. So we're just waiting on this guy to finish this field, the other field, and then we'll get back into harvesting corn. That still has like a growth stage or two to go, I think. So you can see over here our nutrients are about 3 points higher than they were. A little bit basic. It seems like our headlands are a little bit light in nutrients. So I was actually considering making a 2730 disc ripper. So the 9620RX has something to really play with. Although the 2720 is the 27.5 foot working with, it's not that heavy duty of a disc ripper as compared to like the Colo 13 shank or the 2730. Oh, another thing, I updated my soil mod from the GitHub page. And it allows you to plant alfalfa and clover as a cover crop. I mean, like, let it grow 2 stages, let it grow 2 growth stages, and then you can plow it in, and it actually gives you some pretty decent nutrients. And I added those same benefits to grass. He had it as just nil if you were to plow in grass, but I added those same benefits of alfalfa and clover for grass. So anytime you're opening up a new field and it's grass, you'll get a little bit of nutrient boost in there, so it's not so terrible. So the whole idea behind that is most of the fruits have 7 and 8 stage growth periods, where these cover crops have 4 growth stages, so they grow quicker and you can just plow them in at the second. And so basically 2 weeks of waiting around and you just plow it in and you get some decent nutrients. Or let's say that you planted soybeans like a week before corn, and like your soybean has a 1 growth stage less than corn. You can put like a cover crop in there, so while you're waiting for your corn to grow, your alfalfa is growing as well, and probably by the time you're done with corn you can just disc in your corn residue and your alfalfa. So it helps for those fields that you don't get as much benefit from, like a residue like corn. It's just a lot of different flexibility. It allows you to put down less synthetic, which saves money, and it saves on acidity, so you won't have to broadcast as much lime, which saves money. And it gives you the ability to do more weed management if you till up your cover crop versus just running it over with a planter and getting no benefit and just knocking weeds down to like the first growth stage instead of eliminating them completely. So it's a lot of flexibility. It's not like a real big game changer, but it adds to adds more to the dynamics of soil mod, and it gets you one step closer to a little bit more realistic gameplay. It would be interesting if they could incorporate like a ground compaction. I don't know how they would do it, but basically wherever the vehicles are driving, and based on the weight of the vehicle, it would like give you a certain ground compaction value, and if you were to plow it, it would basically set that back to 0. I mean, why not? These individuals that do all these enormous scripting works of art, I mean, I imagine that they would be able to figure it out somehow to make it work. You'd have less compassion for a track machine versus a wheel machine versus big machine versus, heavy versus light. So not only would you get more benefit from plowing more often, for nutrients and soil management, but for, compaction. Basically makes you play the game longer and use your tillage equipment longer, because basically without this you just harvest, plant, and there's really no reason whatsoever why you would even purchase a plow or a cultivator in the base game.